Chapter 6. She would have gone through the telephone book immediately looking for the other names if it hadn't been for the sitter. Mrs. G had turned the volume down on the TV and was now talking on the telephone. To get to the phone book, Katie would have had to approach within inches of her, and she didn't feel like doing that. Little skinny kid with glasses, Mrs. G was saying. She paused and held one hand over the receiver to speak to Katie. Talking to my sister. Why don't you go outside and play or something? She lifted her hand and continued the conversation. It's a long way over here on the bus. I don't know if it's worth it for babysitter money, and I'd like to starve no more than they keep in the icebox. Indignant, Katie turned away. Fortunately, she just remembered that she had Mrs. M's receipt for the paper, and she decided to take it over and see how Lobo was. Mrs. M opened the door wearing a muumuu with lavender and white flowers against a deep purple background. Well, come on in, she said, opening the door wide. You back for more books already? No. Yes, I read both of them, and they were good, but I forgot to bring them back. I just wanted to get away from that sitter and give you this. She handed the receipt and then noticed Lobo lying on a red velvet cushion on one end of the couch. How are you, Lobo? It happened again. She knew as certainly as anything. Katie turned to Mrs. M. He feels better, and he'd like some chopped liver. Mrs. M laughed. Oh, you can talk to cats, eh? Well, maybe you can. He sure had a bladder infection, just like you said, and he ought to be better taking medicine that costs $12.50 for a little bitty bottle. All right, lover, she said to the cat. I'll get your liver. While she was getting it, she talked to Katie over the top of the refrigerator door. Why do you need to get away from the sitter? She's a pig, Katie said. She almost added, she's big and fat, but she decided against it. Mrs. M was pretty big too, but she wasn't a pig like Mrs. G. She's got a whole pile of banana skins and apple cores on the floor beside her chair, and her coffee cup made marks on the table, and all she does is watch TV, except now she's talking to her sister on the phone, probably long distance on our bill. Sounds like a good one, Mrs. M agreed. You like a cookie? The cookies were oatmeal and raisin and homemade. Katie chewed appreciatively. She wondered if Mrs. M would have any ideas about how to find out where those other kids born in September, almost 10 years ago, had gone. She knew she was taking a chance, but she had to find those kids, and if Mrs. M didn't get excited about Katie being able to talk to cats, why, maybe she would understand about the other things too. Before she knew it, she was telling Mrs. M the whole thing. How the other kids didn't like it when she made the ball move away from her face, or whisked back a dropped pencil without touching it, or retrieved her shoe when two boys were tossing it back and forth between them, just by mentally pulling it down from above their heads. Mrs. M seemed very interested. She poured Katie a glass of milk and made herself some tea, and put a plate of cookies between them on the table. It isn't just that I can move things, though, Katie said, reaching for her third cookie. It's something in my looks, because lots of times I haven't done anything, and they just look at me and back away. It's your eyes, Mrs. M said, nodding. Very different. People don't like people who are different. But why not? Having silvery colored eyes doesn't hurt anybody, does it? No, not really. Not any more than having one blue one and one green one does. But the other kids tease Jackson Jones about that, make stupid remarks. My brother had a birthmark, right here, she touched the side of her face, that was shaped sort of like an insect, so the kids called him Spiderface. After he got grown up, he had it taken off, but people that have known him a long time still call him Spider. You can't have your eyes taken out, Katie said. No, I think maybe you can get contact lenses when you grow up, though. They can make it seem like your eyes are a different color if that's what you want. Really? But it'll be a long time before I'm grown up, and even with contact lenses, I'll still be different, won't I? Seems to me you're better than most folks, and maybe that's it. They don't want anyone to be better or smarter or more powerful in any way. They're afraid of people who are different, so they make fun of them, attack them. It's foolish, but it's the way people are. What else can you do besides make things float around in the air? Katie shrugged. Nothing. And that isn't very useful. It's easy to make the pages of my book turn without touching them, but it doesn't save enough energy so that I can use it to do something really important. It's easy to bring myself a banana from the kitchen without getting up and going after it, but would only take a minute to do it the regular way. Mrs. M thought about that. Well, you said you're getting stronger. You can move heavier things now than when you first started, so maybe there'll be a use for it one of these days. But do I have to wait until I've grown up? And won't I still be a freak? Won't people still be afraid of me and hate me because I'm different? I don't know any grown-ups who can make things move just by thinking about it. Mrs. M nodded her uncombed head. It's a problem, all right. Let's see you move something. Can you put sugar in my tea? I don't know. Sometimes I spill things that aren't in a package or something, Katie warned. We can clean it up. Go ahead and put some sugar in my tea, Mrs. M urged. So Katie lifted the spoon from the sugar bowl, floated it unsteadily across the table, and dumped it triumphantly into the teacup. She only spilled a little into the saucer. Hey, that's pretty good. I wish I could do that. Seems like it'd come in very handy, especially when you get old and stiff or when you're sick. I can see, though, that it might cause trouble if people see you doing it when they don't understand it. I think my grandma thought I was a witch or something. It scared her, and I didn't even do very many things in front of her. Well, maybe all you can do is be careful, not do it when anyone's looking. Yeah, that's what I do mostly now. But maybe if there are other kids like me, I could find them. It would be nice to know someone else like me. So she went on and told Mrs. M about Nathan's theory of how something happened to the women who were pregnant when they were worked with the drug that was so dangerous the company stopped making it. Do you think that's possible? Katie asked when she'd finished. Mrs. M considered. Well, I've read about such things. Of course, I thought it was science fiction. But 20 years ago, men going to the moon was science fiction, and now they can really do it. And if it happened to you, it seems like it could happen to somebody else too. Not going to the moon, I mean, making things move by themselves. So maybe there's a lot of people out there like you. Only they've all been treated like freaks, so they've gone underground. You know, they pretend to be the same as everybody else. It's hard work to keep pretending all the time. How am I going to find them then? Katie wondered. She brought the 3 birth announcements out of her pocket and tried to smooth the creases out of them. I already looked in the phone book for the name of Lamont. There aren't any at all, so I guess these people have moved away. What about the other ones? Mrs. M had to get out her reading glasses to look at them. Eric Arnold Van Allsburg, born to Paula and Richard. Dale John Casey, born to Sandra and Alfred. Carrie Louise Lamont, born to Fern and Charles. Katie waited hopefully for Mrs. M to come up with a brilliant idea. All she said was, get the phone book and we'll look for the other ones. Though there were no Lamonts, there were 11 Van Allsburgs, although none of them was named Richard, and 17 Caseys. 2 of the Caseys had the first initial A, so they decided to try those first. Neither of them answered. Mrs. M looked at the clock. Well, they must all still be working. You'll have to call in the evening. With Monica and Nathan listening? Katie asked, how am I going to do that? Well, I guess you'll have to come over here and use my phone, Mrs. M decided. If they had kids, Katie said slowly, wouldn't somebody be home during the day? Maybe they leave them with a sitter. Speaking of sitters, you think the one you had today will be back tomorrow? I don't know. She said it was a long way to come and didn't pay enough. Maybe Monica will fire her. Katie hoped so. I can do more things to make her quit, but if I do, Monica and Nathan will find out and they'll do something to me. I don't think they're going to be as understanding as you are. Oh, I've been around longer. The more you see, Mrs. M told her, the more you learn to accept things. I guess we better not eat any more cookies. They'll spoil your supper. I suppose. It's almost 5 and everybody will be coming home soon. In fact, Mrs. G has to catch a bus at 10 after, so I don't even know if she'll be around until my mother comes home. I think I ought to see if there's any way I can help Jackson Jones collect from Mr. Pullard. He always makes Jackson come back 3 or 4 times before he pays him for the paper. I'm not surprised. Mr. Pullard hates cats. He kicked poor old Lobo once, and Lobo limped for a week. What are you going to do? Mrs. M sounded most interested. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see, I guess, Katie told her.